Is love fate or a choice? Understanding God's will in relationships. Have you ever wondered, does God choose our spouse for us, or is it completely up to us? Is love fate, destiny, or just a matter of free will? So many people struggle with these questions when it comes to relationships and marriage, and today we're diving deep into it. Is love fate or a choice? Understanding God's will in relationships. Have you ever wondered, does God choose our spouse for us, or is it completely up to us? Is love fate, destiny, or just a matter of free will? So many people struggle with these questions when it comes to relationships and marriage, and today we're diving deep into it.
In this episode, we'll explore, does God choose our spouse, or do we? How do we align our choices with God's will? What are the signs of God's confirmation in relationships? How to avoid making the wrong choice in love?
If you're new here, welcome to Dating Relationship Divinely, your go-to place for faith-based relationship advice, biblical wisdom, and real talk about love and marriage. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out.
If you're new here, welcome to Dating Relationship Divinely, your go-to place for faith-based relationship advice, biblical wisdom, and real talk about love and marriage. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out.
This is one of the biggest questions Christians ask when it comes to dating and marriage. Does God predestine one person for us, or do we have a choice? Biblical reference, Proverbs chapter 3 verses 5-6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths." The truth is, it's both. God gives us free will but also provides divine guidance when we seek him.
Free will versus God's guidance. Think of it like this. Free choice. God allows us to make decisions in life, including who we marry. God's will. If we seek him, he will guide us away from unhealthy choices and toward relationships that align with his plan. Alright, here's one of the big ones. Does God actually choose our spouse for us? Or are we out here making this choice solo?
Yeah, that's like one of the top 5 relationship questions of all time. I mean, who hasn't wondered about this?
Exactly. And it's not such a simple answer. On the one hand, we do have free will. God isn't forcing us into anything, including marriage.
Right? But then you've got those moments where it feels like, I don't know, divine intervention. Like everything lines up perfectly. It's hard not to think, maybe God had a hand in this.
And that's where Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6 come in. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. It spells out how God provides guidance when we seek him, but he still respects our ability to choose.
Like he's there to help us not make a disaster of our decisions if we actually listen. Beauty in this is my thing. Free will means you've still got to choose wisely. God's not just handing you a perfect candidate on a silver platter.
Absolutely. Think of it like this. God's will and our choices aren't in conflict. They're more like partners in the process. God gives us the freedom to make the decision, but also the wisdom and tools to make an informed one.
Okay, I love that. Partners in the process. That's a gem right there.
Yeah, and if you're actively involving God, praying, reflecting, seeking scripture, you're much more likely to recognize when something isn't right, or when it is, for that matter.
So true. Can I just say though, that James 1:5, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God. Like, that's the ultimate cheat code, folks.
It really is. And I think it's reassuring to know that God isn't silent in this. If we're open to his guidance, he can point us toward the right path, even if it's not always obvious right away.
Yeah, and I think that gets missed sometimes. People want big neon signs, but often God's guidance comes in the quiet moments, like when you pray and suddenly feel either peace or, I don't know, just unsettled,
Exactly. And prayer isn't just about asking God for a name or face. It's about aligning our hearts with his. That way, we can discern what aligns with his plan.
Oh, quick personal story. So, one of my friends was dating this guy on paper, checked every box. But every time she prayed about it, she felt this uneasiness she couldn't shake. Eventually, she ended the relationship, even though it was hard. Turns out, there were problems beneath the surface she didn't know about.
That's a perfect example. And Proverbs backs it up. Trust in the Lord, and lean not on your own understanding. Even when everything seems picture perfect, if there's no peace, that's a red flag.
Exactly. But let's be real, not everyone's listening for peace. Sometimes we make choices based on feelings alone and try to twist it into God's will.
That's true, but when we take the time to pray, reflect, and acknowledge God in our decisions, it can save us from heading down the wrong path entirely.
Nope, not at all. It's more like piecing together clues, like a divine puzzle. And one of the biggest clues, peace. That's key.
So, building on what we just talked about, acknowledging God in our decisions, do we actually go about discerning His will, especially when it comes to relationships? It's not like we always get this loud, clear answer, right?
Oh, yeah. Like if you're with someone and you always feel on edge or second guessing yourself, that's a major red flag. But the flip side, when you pray and there's this calm, even when things aren't perfect, it just feels right.
Right, exactly. Colossians chapter 3, verse 15 says, "And let the peace of God rule in your hearts." It's that deep sense of reassurance or the lack of it that can guide us.
You're so right. And can I just say prayer is like this holy litmus test. You pray, you dig into scripture, and sometimes you feel that confirmation. Other times, yeah, you're realizing maybe this isn't it.
Exactly. It's not about emotions alone, though. There's also prayer and scripture, which bring clarity. James chapter 1, verse 5 reminds us, "If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, and it shall be given." Prayer keeps us aligned with God's wisdom.
Oof, okay, this one hits hard. 'Cause you can be attracted to someone, but if your values don't align, it's a ticking time bomb. Like, can this person really walk the same spiritual journey as you?
Absolutely. And then there's the issue of shared values. It's not just faith, but vision, goals, the whole direction of life. That's where the Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14 comes in. "Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers."
Oh, I've got a story about this. So, there's this couple I know, right? They were both super into their faith, but also very intentional about long-term goals. They spent months praying together and hashing out everything: finances, family, even career stuff. Now, they've been married for years and are thriving.
Exactly. Compatibility goes beyond surface level attraction. You might both love God, but do you share the same priorities, the same vision for life? That matters as much as chemistry.
Right? It's like that couple did their homework. They weren't just hoping everything would magically work out. They invited God in, but they didn't skip the effort part either.
That's an incredible example. When you build a relationship rooted in prayer and shared values, it's solid groundwork. And it's worth taking that time to ensure you're aligned spiritually and practically.
Yep, like those glaring red flags we tend to ignore. It's like we see men and we're like, nah, it's fine. Love will fix it.
Exactly. And that's what makes all the difference. When you compare prayer and discernment with practical wisdom, you're positioning yourself for a healthy, aligned relationship.
Oh, for sure. Like inconsistent behavior. No thanks. People will talk a big game, but actions, those tell the real story.
Alright, so now that we've talked about what builds a strong, faith-centered relationship, let's look at the flip side: what not to do. Mistakes happen, sure, but some of them, totally avoidable if you stay mindful and grounded.
Preach. And honestly, change has to come from within, like God working in their life, not you trying to fix them. That never ends well.
Alright, so now that we've talked about what builds a strong, faith-centered relationship, let's look at the flip side: what not to do. Mistakes happen, sure, but some of them, totally avoidable if you stay mindful and grounded.
Okay, can we be real for a sec? I've been there totally rushing because I felt like, oh, I'm getting older. Time to settle down.
Absolutely. And issues like anger or controlling tendencies, big red flags. If someone can't respect your boundaries, that's a sign to step back. It's not something you should ignore, hoping they'll change.
Oh, not great. Okay, story time. So, I started dating this guy who on paper seemed amazing. Like check, 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 right? But I know the whole taking my time part. By month 2, the red flags were waving like they were everywhere. But I told myself, it's fine. He just needs time to adjust. Spoiler alert, it wasn't fine.
Exactly. And then there's rushing the process. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1 reminds us, "To everything there is a season." Sometimes people rush because of pressure, whether it's family, age, or even their own emotions.
Exactly. Rushing doesn't solve anything. You've got to trust that when it's right, it'll unfold naturally. God knows what He's doing, so why are we trying to fast forward His plan?
And how did that work out for you?
That's it right there. And honestly, I think if people took the time to pray, to reflect, and to really examine both themselves and the relationship, they'd avoid so many hartashes.
That's a classic example. And I think it shows why patience is so crucial. God's timing isn't about holding us back. It's about protecting us from regret.
And honestly, when you trust God with your love life, it's freeing. Like, you're not stuck second guessing every single choice. You're walking in faith, and that's powerful.
Exactly. And while you're waiting, focus on becoming the person God's calling you to be. A healthy, godly relationship isn't just about finding the right person, it's about being one too.
Yeah, and remember, God's not trying to confuse you. If you seek His wisdom and stay patient, He'll guide you exactly where you need to be.
Completely agree. Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Colossians, they all remind us of one thing. Invite God into the process. Don't rush, and don't ignore the signs He gives. It's not trying to make it difficult, it's trying to make it clear.
Bye, y'all. And don't forget, keep trusting the process.
Exactly. And on that note, I think we've covered some pretty big ground today. Whether it's avoiding mistakes, seeking God's will, or trusting His timing, it all ties back to one thing: faith. Trust Him and let Him lead. And that's all for today. Thanks for joining us, and we can't wait to dive into more of this with you next time on Dating Relationship Divinely. Take care, and God bless.